was deep in my psychotic break, I had people urge me to get help for it, but unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. In addition, I realized much later on that during this time, I was basically the roommate from HE double hockey sticks. So today, I want to take a few moments to talk about what that was like, because obviously no one is a nightmarish roommate who doesn't accept help on purpose. But I think telling this story from that perspective will help people understand those who are in psychotic breaks a little bit more, especially if you have to live with them. And how you can't just tell them they have a problem and expect them to do something about it. If you are new here, my name is Kit, and I have something called schizoaffective disorder, which is a condition where someone experiences symptoms of schizophrenia, such as delusions and hallucinations, but also symptoms of a mood disorder, either major depression or, in my case, bipolar. Naturally, it is my schizoaffective disorder that caused all the problems I'm about to talk about in this video. And I also want to make it abundantly clear that I take responsibility for every single thing I did during this time, even if the reason I did it was because of my mental illness. I still reap what I sow, no matter what. So this all started when I moved to New York City in the fall of 2018, and to be honest, it was a dream come true. I moved in with two of my friends and things started off great. I'd hang with those friends and we would play board games. I would knit on the couch with a girl I once called my sister, and we would watch Netflix shows to pass the time and enjoy each other's company. It was quaint and relaxing, and I loved it. I was also taking classes to become an emergency medical technician, or EMT, and it was a dream I'd had for ages. So another goal off the list already. I studied in Rockefeller Center and wandered the streets of Manhattan in total disbelief that I lived in the Big Apple. And I'd go to sleep every single night to the vibrations of the New York City subway system below my mattress. And the squeaks of wheels on tracks reminded me that yes, I'd done it. I'd achieved a dream, a big one. It was the perfect welcome to New York City, and I was more hopeful than I'd been in years. I romanticized every aspect, adopted the unspoken rules of the city as my own, raised my head high, and started my new life. It was going to be great. It was going to be fantastic. It was going to be everything I hoped it to be and more. But I left home with some delusions that were steadily growing, and my hallucinations were starting to terrify me. It was the beginning of a psychotic break. I won't go into the details on the specifics of what happened during my psychotic break. I've made videos about it already, and I will link them at the end of this one, but just know that when I moved to New York, all of my symptoms were manageable. Everything was manageable at that point. But by the second month, things went really quickly downhill when it came to my functioning. I quit doing chores and started growing apart from my friends without realizing it. I withdrew to my room, a tiny area that was barely as big as a parking space. And I was later told that during this time, I would make entire meals and not eat them. We ended up with a roach problem that I would later learn was my fault. And suddenly, my roommates were not too fond of me. I quit hanging out with them, and it was a combination of them not liking me as much and my own withdrawal. The girl I used to knit on the couch with started making plans to move out. And I'll be honest, I had no idea why. I had no idea why any of this was happening. That's the thing about this situation, is that I didn't know I was having a psychotic break. I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I thought the psychosis was real and didn't need to be fixed. I thought the voices that I heard were just me talking to myself in a creative way. And I was oblivious to the fact that I was manic as heck. I had no idea that I was insane. If anything, I thought I was maybe a little bit depressed, but that's about it. Beyond that, I had no idea I had a problem, so I didn't think I was the problem. So when things deteriorated, I was confused and sad, and I felt alienated and thrown to the side. Like, why was this happening? Why was my dream falling apart? Why were my friends avoiding me? Why didn't they care about me anymore? It got to the point where I wouldn't contribute to anything in the apartment because I just had no motivation to do so. As all this was happening, I was denying the changes I saw in myself and the negative symptoms that were ruining everything. And I was quick to ignore things. So I did. I ignored it. And the episode that I didn't even know I was having got worse. I flipped my schedule, became basically nocturnal, and just quit interacting with my roommates at all. I hardly said anything to them at this point. This was a much deeper problem than any of us were prepared for, and none of us knew it. So when my two roommates sat me down for a conversation, well, it didn't exactly go as planned. It was about a month or two after the psychotic break really kicked off that the three of us gathered in our shoebox of a living room. It was quiet. I knew something was up, but I didn't know what exactly. I definitely didn't think I was about to be a part of an intervention. But it wasn't mean or malicious. All they really did was say that they were worried about my mental state. that my support system was back home in North Carolina, not in New York City with them. And they said that I should move back home. They told me that they weren't kicking me out exactly, and I believed them, they weren't. But they told me that I couldn't live with them anymore. I'm still unsure as to whether they figured out that I was having a psychotic break at that point, but I knew for sure they thought I was having a mood episode. And so, they tried to save me. And I, deep in denial and dealing with my crap, refused. I thought that leaving New York City wasn't an option, even though it should have been. It really should have been. But the thing is, and this is very important, you can't make someone hit rock bottom, they have to do it themselves. And so, because I wasn't there yet, I refused their help and really screwed things up in the process. Looking back, I actually wish that conversation had been my rock bottom. Because after this conversation ended, things got way worse before they got better. By the end, I did actually get treatment for the episode though, and I fixed my sleep schedule, I started doing chores again, I basically got my crap together, but by that point, it was already a lost cause. I'd lost them. I really had. And to this day, that freaking hurts. Because the thing is, just because you work hard to be better, work hard to fix things, that doesn't mean you're gonna get the happy ending. Sometimes no matter what you do, things fall apart and they stay broken. In the end though, I did get kicked out entirely, and I'll be honest, that wasn't all me. There were other factors at play there, but that's a situation I'm not gonna get into. And while I could no longer live with them, I did try to live somewhere else, and that ultimately failed. And so I moved back home, a hollow shell of broken hopes and dreams, and began the lengthy and arduous process of putting the shattered pieces of my life back together. That was the end of my dream of living in New York City. Now I want to hammer home the point that this whole time while I was having this psychotic break, I didn't think I had a problem, and that caused all my issues. I didn't know I was having mood swings and hallucinating. I didn't know that my delusions were delusions. And I didn't even know what a negative symptom was. Why would I try to fix things if I didn't think they were broken in the first place? So if someone in your life doesn't think they're ill, doesn't think they have a problem, know that you can't make them hit the rock bottom that might push them to finally get the help they need. These situations are fragile and scary, and in some cases, like myself, dire. And they're unique to everyone. So sometimes it's hard to find out what works for someone, because what works for me might not work for someone else. This isn't to say that every mentally ill person has to hit rock bottom in order to get better. Plenty don't get that far and are just fine. But with all that said, know that no matter what, help is possible. It just might take some finagling to get to that point. And for some, interventions work. For some, psych wards work. And for some, like me, figuring it out on your own works. And there are many things that do work, so don't give up if one method fails. And this whole video is to say that for me, I had people that cared deeply about my well-being try to save me, and it didn't work. Even though they were some of my closest friends, it still didn't work. At the end of the day, I will never be able to fix what I broke, and to them, my former friends, I will forever be the nightmare roommate that is talked about in an eternal and horrifically negative light. That's the reality of this kind of thing, and I'm far from alone. I know this video was a little bit sad, but I think it's an important story to tell, because there's always more to the story. And I'm not trying to excuse what I did during this time, but this is the reason that I did what I did. But being in this position to know I was that person, well, it's kind of sobering. And I think it's important to have that kind of realization, to accept that you screwed things up, and that you inadvertently hurt people and probably traumatized them forever. But that's the reality of severe mental illness. And all too easily, it can destroy everything you care about. So I hope you found this story helpful. And if you did, let me know in the comment section down below, as I would love to hear your thoughts. And now that you've watched this video, if you want to see the one where I actually talk about what happened in my psychotic break, check out this video right over here. But other than that, thanks for joining me in making the uncomfortable comfortable. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.